Hello, listeners. Before we start, I just want to remind you you can listen to Nighttime early and ad free on Amazon Music. Include it with Prime.
You are listening to Canadian Gothic.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back. In tonight's episode, we're going to catch up with a past topic, one that is easily among the strangest we've discussed. Over the course of now 7 episodes, we've been following the story of Romana Didulo, a Filipino immigrant who, from a bedroom in a Victoria, British Columbia rooming house, convinced a surprising number of people that she is in fact the true Queen of Canada and our kingdom's commander-in-chief.
Hello Canada, I'm Romana Didulo. As of February this year, 2021, I am the head of state and commander-in-chief of Canada, the Republic.
Over the course of this now 7-part series, we've heard many of the ups and downs of Romana Didulo and her followers. You probably recall the 2-part episode in which some of her followers attempted to arrest the city of Peterborough's police force.
About 30 people gathered in Confederation Park Saturday afternoon to, as they say, arrest local police officers.
We're going to request the military come and remove the criminals.
They then marched to the Peterborough Police Station on Water Street.
In some of this series' more recent episodes, we've been discussing the strange situation playing out in the small community of Richmound, Saskatchewan, where Romana and her people have been using an abandoned school as what the Queen calls a command center, but what the residents of the community seem to just refer to as a large compound occupied by a cult.
For 2 years, Didulo and her followers have lived in a former school in the village of Richmound, population just over 100. In July, the village office closed its doors to the public outside pre-arranged appointments due to harassment and intimidation of staff. The group is tied to the QAnon movement, believing Canada's laws do not apply to them, and has expressed violent anti-vaccination messages.
Queen Romana's traveling pseudo-government first landed in Richmound about 2 years ago, and despite a tremendous effort to get them out, nothing's worked. But it seems that may have just changed. The last week has seen a game-changing development that has not only removed the group from the abandoned school, but it may put Romana Didulo behind bars.
As I said, the corporation police are outside and they're saying that put your hands up and nothing will happen, they said.
Tonight, in this episode of the Canadian Gothic, I'll be joined by Tom from OwlNews.ca to discuss the arrest, the release, and the rearrest of Queen Romana Didulo. Tom, it has been a wild few days, but it's really been a wild summer for people following Queen Romana and her bizarre cult of conspiracy. But before we get into everything that's happened, let's catch up with you. You've been on the show when Queen Romana Didulo and her crew first arrived in Richmound, Saskatchewan. You made a little game of taunting them. You showed up there with a fake electric chair. How have you been?
Oh, I've been well, very well. Normal life with normal humans has its ups and downs, but experiencing a pretty good up right now. As the independent journalists in Medicine Hat, Alberta, a small town out here, we would, I don't know, maybe celebrate isn't the right word. Maybe dancing on the graves of our competition isn't the right word. But Jim Pattison, the richest man in Vancouver, shut down the Chat TV terrestrial news station here. Cable TV no longer exists in Medicine Hat, so we're the go-to when it comes to getting news.
Yeah, and that side of your life is removed from what I do. I'm here on the East Coast, so I only come across your stuff when you're covering Queen Romana. But tell me about OwlNews.ca.
Yeah, well, this last 30 days, we just sort of hit a milestone. We've reached over 5 million views on our videos in a 30-day period or 28-day period. So probably related to some of the Romana stuff. But what we do generally is cover the goings on, interesting stories of Southern Alberta. Maybe not as interesting as like the weird sort of things that you stick to, but the daily news. And of course, right now we're going to a municipal election. So I've been interviewing all the candidates for the election. We have a very interesting city. So there's like 20 something people running for city council, which is like, I don't know, it's a kind of a longer list. Yeah, it's a fun job, and I like to know my community well. I like to have I don't know, I guess people around that want to communicate and tell stories, and I love when people share stories. So
Yeah,
making
cool.
this my job I don't know. It's a good fit.
I think the city is lucky to have you because you're the kind of journalist that just doesn't exist anymore. You're something between like Hunter S. Thompson and then just I guess like the lunatic around town.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, when I was growing up, 80s, 90s kid, I would be in the basement on the home computer, and my dad would call down the stairs, it's bedtime for Gonzo. And they would call me Gonzo. I don't know why. It was part of the Muppets, right? The Muppets television show.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the Muppet Gonzo was a journalist. Now, later, I fell in love with Hunter S. Thompson's work. I first watched Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas with Johnny Depp, and that was a great movie. I moved on to reading some of the books, the Hells Angels saga there, and I love his work. I think Gonzo journalism is under-recognized form of sort of communication, but now in this world of like YouTube and social media and the internet, it's almost become the standard, like all of the journalists out there that want to do a story on the poverty or the tent town or whatever, they all go right there and try and sit in a tent with the homeless person and, get in there and do it. And so, yeah, in reflecting on what's been going on this week, I found that there was one sort of key point, which I found to be that Gonzo angle, when Romana was getting walked from the van around and up the stairs to the courthouse, she got transported. I decided I don't want to be on the front side with all the other 5 journalists that have shoulder rig cameras. I'm going to creep up around the back and shoot it from her perspective. And when she came out of the van, she said, "Oh, yes, I expected there should be a lot of cameras here," and looked around at all the cameras. And I was like,
yeah,
that is awesome. Like, everybody else got a shot with me in it. Like, I'm in the background of everybody else's shot, ruining their shot. But, like, I got the shot I wanted, which was them all being in the background of my shot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I kind of wanted to see it from her angle as much as that is possible. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I tried to join. They wouldn't let me, so I had to do it my way.
You do a good job of getting yourself in the middle of this crazy story. The whole situation at the grocery store we talked about before, where you encountered some of Queen Romana's security staff, I guess, buying groceries, and you all but chased each other out of there in the end. You both probably thought you won.
Yeah, I was in Medicine Hat, Superstore Medicine Hat.
They should know better than to step on your turf.
The funniest thing, 3 people wearing hats that say security, calling for security. It's just like any regular thinking department store shopper is just like, what is going on here? You guys are the security, right? Like,
yeah, you can just be like, it is a long story, ma'am. Just get out of here. Anyway, let's get into it because a lot has happened in the last week or so that I want to talk to you about. Mm-hmm. But before we get into that, let's just kind of catch up on what's been happening. So again, we first connected, I guess about 2 years ago when Queen Romana and her crew arrived in Richmound. There was a whole to-do about that when they first showed up and people in the community trying to get them out. The mayor got involved. Mm-hmm. The RCMP set up a little kind of like a makeshift police station not far from the abandoned schoolhouse they were living in, but nothing seemed to happen. And I guess I would say for the last 2 years, for the most part, things have been stable in Richmound. Stable in terms of Romana and her crew were in the schoolhouse, surrounded by a fence, doing their own thing, and the rest of the townspeople were trying to get them out. But it didn't really boil over until recently. Have you been following it closely, like even over the last year and a half, as things were kind of stagnant for the most part?
I don't know if I would say closely. I mean, maybe once every week or two, I would, fast forward through something, see if there's any localized content. A lot of the world stuff they talked about was just kind of too out there. But then I started to see one of the trends was they were having multilingual presentation. I mean, it went from just English, French to now they got a Chinese lady. Now they got a German guy. And I was like, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. For people who are unfamiliar, they do a daily news broadcast, which is like in some days, several hours long. They'll do it in English, French, and then different languages around the world. I don't know how they find these people.
Greetings and welcome. You're watching Queen Romana Tell Real Vision World News with me, Her Excellency Gina Lee, today's English host of QRTRB World News.
An Ihre Königliche Majestät, Königin Romana Didulo I. de Sa Majesté Royale Reine Romana Didulo I, Reine et Commandante
Königin Romana Didulo die Erste.
自然法下的 Her Royal Majesty Queen Romana Didulo I 将到王国和世界
Unbelievable that people in other countries could experience the same very specific form of mental illness that makes you think that somehow a Filipino lady living in Canada is the universal leader of everything.
Yeah, and it seems like every time I check in with them over the last year and a half or so, she has a new few words at the end of her title. You know, she's the queen, she's the leader of this, that, the other. You know, it just keeps building and building. Ultimately, she is seen by her followers as a religious figure, but also as this like legal political superpower that is pulling the strings all around the world, and everything is just about to fall into place where she takes the lead. It never quite gets there,
and don't ask too many questions.
No, and that's right. Certainly don't ask questions, and if you do, you get blocked from wherever it is they're talking. But everything seemed like the house of cards they've been living within really seems to have begun to fall the beginning of this summer, and it all relates to access to Richmound's sewer system and water supply. I know on OwlNews.ca there's an article, I can't think of the headline. It had a clever headline about like the sewage, the queen of sewage or something. Do you know what the article I'm talking about?
Oh, the royal flush. Our CMP raids sovereign sewage. Mm-hmm. The queen, the cult, and the great Richmound water heist.
Yes. So ultimately what has happened is, and we've talked about this before, the mayor of Richmound is doing everything he can, and the people of Richmound are doing everything they can to get the cult out of that abandoned schoolhouse. One of the ways they've begun to do that is looking at how the schoolhouse is connecting to the municipal or the city water. They believed that the schoolhouse was getting city water without paying it and had access to the city sewer without, paying the fees or the taxes or whatever, which led to what I'll call the first raid on the compound. This would have been, I think, early July. City staffers, with the support of the RCMP, were able to break down a barrier, which was just a large fence, and go in there and physically shut off the sewer system or access to the sewer system and water. I'm sure you followed when that was happening, because that was pretty big news.
Watching them just like tear that fence open like it was nothing, and then when the fists started going with Ricky, I mean, that's serious. I mean, you'd think, this whole time I'm kind of thinking a guy like Rick, maybe he's got his own grift. Maybe he just wanted the school painted and then he was going to kick him out. Maybe he was waiting, just to get it in the right position, just sort of like Romana, just get this house of cards in the right position, and then I'll snap into reality again. And
for people who are unfamiliar, Ricky Mans is the resident of Richmound, Saskatchewan, that actually owns the schoolhouse. He's a follower of Romana's, and he's allowing them to live there. So he's been a major player in this. Mm-hmm. He's even been giving a designation. They refer to him as His Excellency, Mr. Mans.
Yeah, Mans. He is the chief of the World Prosperity Police.
Oh, yes.
Peace and prosperity. Whatever.
It's something really important. But when the police go there to allow city staffers in to shut down the water and sewer, it's Ricky Mans, the property owner, who really gets into it. And yes, punches are thrown. And I believe charges are laid as a result.
Yeah, oh yeah. That's why we were in court. One of the reasons, among many. We'll give it a little bit of context. The property is registered to a company called Can-Abis.
Okay.
Cannabis. That's the name of Ricky's grow company. He just hyphenated the word. So it's an industrial commercial use designated for like some kind of commercial industrial ag. It's not residential property. Mm-hmm. Nobody is supposed to ever sleep there, ever. There wasn't supposed to be anybody living there. You're not supposed to live at the industrial complex registered zoning places. So there was already kind of like obvious violations happening, but I guess nobody was able to step in. And then when it came to the water, it was like, I guess in the background, the regional municipality is obviously monitoring their water because they are in the middle of the desert, right? We don't just get free water. Like you have a system where you purchase water from a major supplier and they fill like a huge city cistern, and then that's used over the year. And then like if there was a drought or whatever, some problem, then they might have to get more. And that's one of the main things that the this small little city spends its money on, that they need water. Like, they need water.
Yeah, it's a city of 120 people. So if you have a schoolhouse with 30 in there using your water, that's a big deal.
And they always looked good for the QRTRV news. You know, it wasn't like they were looking like they hadn't showered or whatever. They all had their conditioner. And so, I don't know, it appeared outwardly that there was water being used. People were suspicious of it. Then all of a sudden they started growing crops all over the land. Like outside, they got corn that is like 4 feet tall and like growing, like it's like a pasture of cornfield all around the outside of the school. Then they had like an irrigation system that was like watering it, and people are looking at it and they're going, how would it be pressurized like that? Like how would they be doing all of this? You know, like they're running generators ostensibly. Like, where's all this? Yeah, there's too much energy being used here for the system to make sense unless water was coming into that system. That's what people had surmised when they started growing stuff. They were like, hey, it's got to be that they turned it back on. Because I don't know if you're aware, but a lot of these rural municipalities, a lot of even city properties, the way the water shutoff works is just sort of like about 3 feet in between like the easement of the public property and where your building is. There's just sort of like a hole that goes down, and you need a big long T-shaped tool with a little thing on the end, and you stick it down there and you turn it, and it shuts the water off. And then they put the manhole cover on and they walk away. But I mean, all it would have taken is somebody going down there and turning that valve back on, because there, I guess, maybe wasn't a reason or mechanism to permanently shut that off back when they decommissioned the school. I mean, I think I did hear the mayor say during one of our conversations that at some point they had like cemented something to do with where the sewage would go. So that, I don't know if this was before or after the cult had arrived, but they had put cement down in a sewer hole so that it couldn't connect with the rest of the sewage system. And they would have to set up their own, field, waste field, whatever you call it, septic tank. And if they were using the toilets there and they were getting water pressure and those toilets were flushing, then it was going to something in the water piping underground system that was not meant to be used. And then maybe it made connection with some other water pipes that were not supposed to have this black water type water next to them. And so there was even, I believe, a full day or possibly even several days where there was no water, boil water. You know, there was an order that the mayor had to put out saying, we do not know if this water is potable right now because of the contamination that might have occurred. Wow. So yeah, people got really pissed that day.
I bet. And it's like this in the center of your small, quiet town, this craziness. And not only is this going on in your town, but it's bringing people in. You know, people like you got the news from all over the world showing up. Richmound is just a quiet little place that wants to stay quiet. And the mayor, Brad Miller, has been doing an amazing job advocating for the community. When this all happened earlier in the summer, when the police allowed the city staffers in to cut off the water permanently, remove any access to the sewer system, some people thought like, okay, this is it. Like they raided the compound, but that wasn't the end. All it did is, I think, just make things worse because it did cut off their water supply, but the cult didn't leave. And I'm going to read a section of a Facebook post made by the mayor of Richmound, Saskatchewan. And I think this is good. This is an abbreviated version of a much longer post he's made calling for public support, getting this group out of his community. And I think this will just paint a picture of the desperation in this town. So here's what the mayor posted to Facebook on August 8th. I'm writing this in hopes that people see what's happening in our small town of Richmound, Saskatchewan, and that the right people finally step in and end this nightmare. For nearly 2 years, a QAnon cult has occupied our old school. They were invited by the building's owner and refused to leave. Despite TV, radio, newspapers, and government outreach, we've gotten nothing but empty promises. From the start, they threatened residents with violence and even execution. Today, they remain barricaded in the school behind fences and cameras with blinding lights aimed at our highway. They've stolen town water, illegally used our sewer system, and now, after being cut off, they're pumping raw sewage onto public property near one of our baseball diamonds. It's heartbreaking, infuriating, and of course unsafe. We've had no real help or protection, just more waiting and broken promises. Who knew pumping sewage, shining lights onto a highway, and threatening execution was allowed? I guess when you're a town of 120 people, it doesn't matter too much. Richmound used to be a wonderful place to live. Please share this so that the right people finally notice and do something. And I think that statement, again, it's much longer when you read the full thing, but it's the sounds of desperation. When you have a mayor turning to social media being like, we need help getting our town in order. You don't see something like that very often.
Yeah, I think you certainly don't see mayors doing that sort of thing. I think in a small town where normally the communications that need to happen face to face with the shaking hands at the local, bar or saloon, whatever. This was something where he's like literally reaching out, kind of seemingly to the province, but I know he had said, I had contacted, I think Scott Moe is their premier, didn't get any resolution there, and so was actually kind of looking to anybody at all. Are there any police agencies? Is there anybody out there who wants to come and help with this thing? Just anybody.
Well, it seems like that call out may have worked. That was on August 8th that he posted that. Over the past week, the first week of September, I dare say nothing will ever be the same within this cult, and I hope that things are going to get more normal for Richmound, Saskatchewan. We'll take a quick break. When we get back, we'll hear about all the nonsense that play out on September 3rd. So just before we start talking about everything that went down on September 3rd, the early morning of September 3rd, let me set the scene. So during the early morning hours of Wednesday, September 3rd, the people of Richmound, the mayor, Brad Miller, I think they finally got what they've been asking for.
Leave the phone down. You're under arrest.
All right.
The RCMP arrest of the woman who calls herself the Queen of Canada, captured by her own phone during a live stream.
Down on the ground, please.
Romana Didulo and 15 others were taken into custody after a raid involving some 30 police cars, 2 tactical vehicles, drones, and a pair of SWAT units.
The next phase of the investigation is now in its early stages. Investigators are still in the process of searching the building, collecting evidence, and interviewing those arrested.
Police say the operation was sparked by reports of an individual with a firearm. They say they seized 4 replica handguns.
It's so great that we have finally gotten some movement. It's been a lot of the community members are very, very frustrated.
RCMP in Saskatchewan say they have 24 hours after an arrest to lay charges. In the meantime, provincial agencies are conducting their own investigations, which could rule that the building is uninhabitable.
So that was a busy morning at the abandoned school. For people who haven't seen clips, this isn't like a couple cops showing up and knocking on the door. This is an early morning raid. 30-something vehicles. There's drones flying over to the school. There's SWAT teams. I think it was a little after 4 a.m. As they breach the school, get inside there, Romana and her crew seem to be in like a back room live streaming as this is all going down. It eventually ends with a large group of police officers entering the room and having Romana and a few of her inner circle surrender and get arrested. But oh my goodness, as someone who's followed this for 4 or 5 years now, I never thought I would see the day that it's happened. And it finally has. How did you learn about Romana's first arrest and, this whole charade?
So, first, just for the purpose of accuracy in journalism, I know that you're calling it a room. Kind of seemed like they had just taken the cubicle pieces that make up like a cubicle in a call center and created a little square and sat inside that, maybe in the gymnasium or something. Because when the cop came in, it was like he just sort of pushed the wall aside. Yeah. And they were the most polite SWAT team I've ever freaking seen. Like, they got their probably fully automatic. I don't know. I'm not like a big gun guy or whatever, but they got the big guns with lights and stuff on them. And they're like, ma'am, please put down your phone and please get on the ground.
Leave the phone down. You're under arrest.
All right.
Leave the phone down. One at a time, not too close.
So there you go.
Down on the ground, please.
Okay.
Please. Okay?
Okay. I'm not resisting. There's no one there in the text. Here, I'll give you my hand. Here. Okay, can I just shut off the phone? Shut off. After we have somebody take care of the royal puppies. Thank you.
Apparently, for like an hour, they had been outside the building yelling, come out with nothing in your hands. So having something like I don't know, a black shiny thing in your hand, like a cell phone when the cops bust in. I mean, like, there's probably at least one of those 30 cops that's like, yeah, I could explain this in court.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's crazy that she to the last minute had to be live streaming. Like, that is so crazy. Like,
And she's also maintained kind of the lie right to the very end. She was telling her followers that are in there, whether she's saying, everyone be calm, like, we don't know if this is the police or if this is the white hats that are coming here possibly to protect me from something.
And I also said that to the team, and you probably heard, not to resist and not to cooperate, as this might be a white hat operation to safeguard the Queen and the entire team.
I think that question still exists, that even after being taken captive, that they, throughout the telegram, are still hopeful that, oh, well, it's the white hats that are protecting her right now because of the, I don't know,
Epstein stuff, yeah. And for
something.
people
Yeah.
unfamiliar with the terminology, the white hats is basically like the good guys. And one thing that's really funny that just shows the depth of their hope and faith in this whole thing is Romana Didulo, as she's being arrested, she says, like, I don't know if it's like the badge number or something of one of the cops that are next to her, and he or she happened to have the number 17 in like his badge number or his identifying information, and she read it out loud for the camera.
A17, it says A17. Okay, so everyone, I am walking with A17 RC.
Q is the 17th number in the alphabet. So some people are seeing like, oh, that's a sign.
Yeah. I mean, the numerology stuff is like one of the, I guess, small pieces of the crazy pie that is being consumed in the Telegram channels. It's like some of these people in the Telegram are influencers themselves in the way that they interpret what is happening. Like, they make up their own sort of quasi-schizo version of how this could be good and positive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, as much as I want to make fun of this whole thing, these individuals are real freaking people. Who knows? One of them could be your auntie long lost, you know?
Yeah, it's true. But it's like what they initially, the raid was in response, as we heard in that news clip, was in response to this tip that there were possibly someone with firearms, or was possibly someone with firearms in the compound. It turns out they arrested 16 people, and they did find firearms, but not what you would traditionally call firearms. They were referred to as like replica or imitation firearms. I haven't seen any particulars of what they actually found. Like, was it toy guns, or could it have been, pellet guns or BB guns or whatever?
Okay.
But
so I will say this. I do have it on very good information from somebody who I can verify was in the vicinity and inside the building. That it is like the things you get from Canadian Tire that have CO2. They look like a real gun, but they just shoot like a little pellet. Like, maybe you could kill a rabbit with one of these if you were like pretty close to it,
yeah.
But the scary part is the idea of replica means that these things either look like, I know there's one, I used to work at Canadian Tire a long time ago. I don't know if they still sell this one, but I remember I worked in sports and seasonal, and there was a 357 Magnum that was like the dirty, hairy, long gun, and it was steel and everything with a wooden handle, but the wooden handle opened up and you put a CO2 in there and you punctured it, and then I think you poured pellets into a little thing and it could shoot at, and it was like, I don't know, 600 feet per second or something like that. Like, it was a pretty high rated, you wouldn't give that type of thing to your kid. They'd shoot their eye out. I have it on good information that the type of replica they had was something to that effect. The type of thing you'd buy at Canadian Tire. It looks like a real firearm. It does shoot a little pellet thing, which could be very annoying, but the look of them is so real looking that if you were a police officer, they are not effing around.
Hell no.
Give that some context to why maybe all of the tires are slashed on all of the vehicles that were at the compound that night. They said, the cult says, it was the police that did it. Maybe they knew the police were coming because, I mean, Rick got arrested off-site at his own house. So maybe there was a radio and Rick said, they're coming, you know? And maybe what they did was they had a plan. I don't know. This is all alleged. I'm saying maybe to make the cops look bad, they damage all their own stuff because they were really adamant about, you know, it being damaged and blaming it on them. But, you know, having been out there the day after, and I took a walk all the way around, the fence is broken down, and I saw two older ladies that were packing up a Fiat, little 500, little hatchback, all the way to the brim. Like all their stuff. It looked like the whole kit and caboodle, you'd call it, out there in Nova Scotia.
They were getting out of there.
I thought so. They're getting out of there, at least, the compound.
Okay.
So apparently those that picked up, I think probably, hopefully, I pray, and I'm not a religious man, I hope some of these people went home to their families. But if they didn't, apparently they went next door to Fox Valley, an even more remote place. The lady who jumped in front of my truck way back in their convoy.
Yeah, and they've done this before where they left the compound and went and fled to like live in like a field or something in this house in a more remote area. You had mentioned briefly like the damage to their property, the flat tires and stuff. After Romana and the 14 others were originally arrested, they were all taken down to the station, whatever, but they were then released, and initially no one was charged. And they made a video where Romana Didulo and one of her people are just like walking around the compound, surveying the damage. So looking at windows and that were broken, flat tires, and just damage to stuff, and just talking about how, you know, the police were unlawful and overly destructive with all the serving the raid the day before.
All right, everyone, it is Davina S. 170035, previously known as September 4, 2025, and I'm here to share with we the people the gross abuse of what they have done to Her Royal Majesty Queen Romana Didulo and team.
It seemed like when I saw this video come out, I thought like, oh my God, all that, they arrested them, they bust in, they're just back at the compound like nothing even happened. But something major changed the day after her release. So she was arrested on the 3rd, released, I believe, either the night of the 3rd or the morning of the 4th.
The morning of the 4th, she's released with conditions not to have any contact with the people who she had apparently allegedly threatened, which was Brad Miller, the mayor, the wife of the mayor, a police officer, and some other municipal worker, I think a firefighter. It was like a list of people that were officials in Richmound. And then also on that list was Ricky Mans. So Ricky's not allowed to contact Romana. Romana's not allowed to contact Ricky. And what happened apparently that day was they both went right back to the compound and went inside of the compound together. Now, the police are just monitoring from outside to, I guess at this point, see who's coming and going. But when they see that Romana and Rick have gone in there, they, I guess, assume that some type of contact has occurred. Rick, in court, denied it and explained, I went in there to get my tools and Romana was in the other room. I didn't even see her. I got my tools and I left. But, you know, when the court puts in place an order that says, you know, you're not allowed to have contact with this person, you certainly don't want to be seen by the police going into a building with them around the same time, knowing that, I mean, it's like...
Come on, right? But
yeah, I mean, it's just bad
and
form,
it's backfired on them because the day after being released, they were both rearrested a second time and now formally charged. Romana Didulo is facing charges of breaching an order, which was to not talk to Ricky Mans, and she was charged with intimidation of like a justice participant, I believe.
That's right. Oh, actually, the full wording, interestingly enough, is 423.5 of the criminal code, intimidation of a justice participant or a journalist.
Oh, okay.
You know, why aren't I on this victim list? I was on the fucking hit list.
Yeah,
like,
that's true. That's a very good point.
I wouldn't be surprised if the police at some point reached out to me and said, "Hey, we've determined that you are a victim here," like you said a year and a half ago.
I would attend that trial. So Romana had those two charges. Ricky Mance was also rearrested. He was charged with one count of failure to comply with the release condition, that being not to have contact with Romana Didulo, one count of intimidation of a justice system participant, and one count of failure to comply with an undertaking condition. And I believe that has something to do with his prior charges that he's still facing related to prior incidents. He has 7 other charges, including assault, resisting arrest, mischief, uttering threats, and obstructing municipalities. I've never heard of that one, but both of these two are in very serious trouble. This has all just happened days ago, and there's only been one court appearance so far. You've mentioned it a few times, but you drove over from Medicine Hat to Swift Current?
That's right. It's about a 2-hour drive-ish. I don't think there are any real stops for gas. There might be one between, here and there. Swift Current is a beautiful little
The
town.
courthouse was
Like,
beautiful.
honestly,
Your photos and videos that you did outside, it looks like a Stephen King book or something. Like, it looks like what I would picture.
It is. The place is creepily beautiful. Like, I get there, I see a guy outside who appears to be Central American who's doing the gardening. There is a beautiful bed of flowers. I walk up, I say hello. We're the only, I'm there with the morning gardener, There's a garden shed in the back that I pointed out. I thought it was funny that they had their own little shed, for their tools for keeping the courthouse nice. But I asked him, are you here every day? Do you do the gardening here often? Yup. I said, where do they bring the prisoners in from? And he goes, you go around the side there and you go to that door there. I said, thank you so much. I told him about our website and stuff. And so I knew where to wait. We watched some other clips of other cases that had been tried there to see where they bring in the perp for the perp walk, because, you got to be on your toes. But it just so happened that I was focusing on a shot of a CTV vehicle down the street, and I saw the transportation vehicle come before everybody else because I was 20x zoomed in, and I just started jogging towards where it was going and got that shot there. But yeah, when they were in court, I was taking notes the whole time. I wasn't allowed to use my recording device, but I got 18 sort of small handwritten note pages. I even scribbled out a picture of the judge at one point because, courtroom drawings are Canadian thing.
Yeah, it is.
That's how we show it.
Before you tell me what happened in court, tell me about Romana getting out of the vehicle and walking up the stairs, because I didn't up the stairs into the courthouse because I don't think I expected her to address the media, but she did. What?
You didn't expect it, dude. That was like, I was totally expecting it. I mean, especially when I saw the staircase that they were going to walk her up. I mean, the beauty of this building, which you said just through photographs and video, it is awe-inspiring. It is a beautiful building. When Romana sees something beautiful, what does she do? She goes right into Romana mode. She's like, oh, I can take advantage of this. I'm standing in front of this great building on this top of these stairs here with all these cameras looking at me. But yeah, right when she got out of the van, right away, she took that serious tone, big breath in, chest out. Oh, yes, all the cameras here. I expected them.
Well, I expected all the cameras here. Run rising, everyone. Run rising, everyone.
I was right behind the police officer, the sheriff, I guess, that is doing the escort. He kind of turned around and was like, "Hey, you're a little close." I had the camera right up over the door, kind of thing. But I'm the guy that'll push that line. So I backed up and was like, "Thank you." I was polite with all of them and well dressed, had my tie and suit on and all that. And so then she took a few steps forward. She sees all the media. She realizes, I think at this point, I don't want them to get a shot of the cuffs so much. So she kind of clasped her hands together and let her long jacket kind of go down over the cuffs a little bit. Started walking up the stairs. Then noticed her leg shackles are visible no matter what. And also, it's kind of hard to walk upstairs in leg shackles if you're not going to reach out and touch that banister. So it all became very evident when she sort of was like maneuvering up the stairs. This is not easy. This maneuver is not easy, philosophically or physically. This is fucked up what you're doing right now. And so they led her to the top, and she turned around and said, "False allegations, innocent till proven guilty."
Remember, innocent until proven guilty, huh?
Just to our left and up the stairs.
And 0 charges on false accusation about possession of weapons. And false allegations on trying to intimidate the justice system.
Will you be leaving? Will you be following the orders?
Just into the right.
You know, the rest of the media was silent. I thought this is the scrum we're gonna get. Are you gonna follow the orders or are you gonna leave?
Yeah, you shouted out a question. You were the only one.
That's all I could think of was, I mean, I wanted to see if she would say, we will not leave the command center of the kingdom of... Yeah, that would have been funny, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, she didn't want to say anything. She kind of smirked, turned, and went inside.
This plays out. She walks up. She goes into court. Ricky Mann's, there wasn't fireworks outside. He just had a hood up, and he just went into the courthouse. But you go in and take notes. How does the queen of the fake queen of Canada reconcile facing like the actual court?
Not with a lot of reverence.
No, okay. Yeah. So what happens? Like this hearing would have just been to like set dates for like a plea and stuff?
So yeah, a first appearance, generally what that means is they're going to sometimes deal with bail right away. You know, if you were arrested because you stole a Trump lawn sign from a Canadian lawn, you know, like, it's like, I don't know, is that really a political interference crime, or is that just like a basic vandalism and you can give them their sign back and say you're sorry? You know, so like if you were arrested on that kind of thing, you might just be processed right away and be given a piece of paper, like a promissory note that says, I will come to court on this day for my hearing. Or they might say, you've got to see a judge before we can write that piece of paper that gets you out because like you did something that's a little worse than that. And so I think it's possible that if they had lawyers retained already, which they would have had reasonable time to do that. I mean, as soon as you're put in cells, there's generally a phone book or a poster or some access. If you don't have your own phone to call your own known lawyer, you know, there's a list of lawyers you can call when you're in the cells. The police encourage you to contact lawyers because they're like, we don't want you fucking sitting around in the Swift current RCMP cells all weekend. Like, we got to do work here and we got to exist here and have our jokes between cops where there's never friggin' 2 people sitting in cells that were not allowed to have contact with each other. But yeah, so they're in court. The first thing is the judge, of course, recognizes that there is no lawyer present. There is only the Crown prosecutor, which is the lawyer for the people, for the police, right? Mm-hmm. Romana's just sitting there by herself with the guy that brought her in, the sheriff. The sheriff's kind of sitting back like, my job's done here. Here's a person. The judge says, you know, are you getting a lawyer? How are we going to deal with this? Romana says, no, I'm not getting a lawyer. Okay, you'll deal with it yourself then. Yes. Okay, well, you know, I can't provide you a lot of instruction on that, but I will let you know that one of these charges is very serious, the type of thing that you could actually go to real jail for like a couple of years. And Romana's, you know, sitting in front of the court. The judge says, do I have before me Romana Didulo? It is a formality that the judge says, would this person stand up and be recognized? It's a formality. You must stand before the court. She stands up and she says, sir, I don't think she said your honor or anything like that. There was no superlative. Sir, I am Queen Romana I. And I started to take a breath. I mean, I'm sitting at the back of the court. The judge was kind of like, okay, so that's you. That's all we needed there. You can go ahead and sit back down. Now, we're interested in what we're going to do for your bail hearing because the court has to be totally fair with you. You are innocent right now. You are innocent until I can, beyond any reasonable doubt, presume that you have committed the offenses that they're accusing you of. He was so clear with what it means to have a court case in a criminal law. Like, it was like breaking it down for the babies. I don't know if he was doing that because the media was there. It was the first full house in years in Swift Current. Maybe because he takes his job very seriously and he's a good judge. He does what you're supposed to do. Probably this person who's not represented, who thinks she's the queen, maybe doesn't have a great idea of what's going on, but I need to make sure that I cover my ass as a judge. Do you want a lawyer when you go to do bail? And she said no. And he's like, well, you're in jeopardy because if you don't get a lawyer by the time we start this thing on Monday, you could end up in jail until your trial, and that could be months or possibly years away. Do you want to stay in jail until your trial starts? And she kept referring to natural law. She kept saying, I'm not under statutory law. I'm not under criminal law. And you can make what's called a charter application. If you believe that your charter rights are being violated and we're in the wrong court, you can do it, but you need a lawyer for that because you have no idea how to do that. Like making a charter application from jail, like with a pen and paper, it's not going to happen, right? So he was just trying to be very clear with her, and he kept asking, do you understand? And at a certain point, he realized she is not going to agree that she understands anything because of this mumbo jumbo sovereign citizen stuff. So he said, how about if I said, do you comprehend? And he said it in this sort of interesting way. And I remember watching, some of these, you've watched the QRTRV news. Romana likes to say, comprehend a lot. Like it's one of her words to kind of throw shade on all the dummies. Can you comprehend what I comprehend? The comprehension, She liked that. She just snapped onto that like a magnet. Oh, yes, Your Honor, I comprehend.
Wow.
He goes, okay, I'm fine with that. And then starts to continue. Okay, so if you're not getting a lawyer for your bail hearing, you're only going to be able to review your own bail materials if you choose to go to White Birch. And I believe he had mentioned 2 places. I only got one of them scribbled down, which was White Birch. And he said, one of these places is in Regina and the other one is in St. Albert. And she said, well, Regina is so far away. How would I get back if I am provided bail? He goes, I don't know. That's up to you. Like bus or something. I'm not really sure how you get from Regina back to wherever you think you're going back to. And she goes, well, back home to Richmound. Okay.
Yeah.
No. If you go to Regina and for any reason are released from Regina, we are not making any efforts to bring you anywhere. I don't know if you've ever seen a movie. When somebody gets released from jail, you're going to have to figure out your own way home if you get released from there. But he's also kind of like, you're not getting released from there. She says, well, where is St. Albert? And the judge says, north. And she goes, oh, I don't like that. Judge, can I be released just to go buy a laptop? He goes, no. No. These are things you'll have to discuss with your lawyer, probably before your bail hearing. I just really, really want you to get a lawyer before your bail hearing. She's just like, nope, not doing it, not doing it. Can I get on the TV camera thing to do my next appearance instead of coming here? And he goes, no. In fact, I'm going to order you to come back here in person. You can stay in the Swift Current cells just down the block. It's a couple blocks away on Monday. You're coming right back here in front of me. And we're going to talk again. And she said, basically, yeah, I don't consent to anything. Away you go. And so they took her out. All of the journalists left so that they could get her going back down the stairs into the van to get transported back. I had other people outside who I knew were recording, and I already had, the shot of her going up and saying I'm innocent was it. I could have beamed off for the day, but I stuck around and I thought, well, if Ricky's in next, I want to see what's up with that. And most people had left. There was, half the number of people still in the courtroom.
And I think the Ricky's charges, Ricky Mann's the owner of the schoolhouse, his charges are so important because as long as Ricky Mann stays on his feet and has control of that school, it seems like they have a half of an in. If Ricky Mann's was out of the equation, Romana Didulo and her people would have been long gone from Richmond.
Well, I think the order that the Saskatchewan officials, they've declared the building a public health threat as of, I guess, today.
Yeah, we're recording this on the 7th of September. And yeah, they've announced today that the school is not to be inhabited. It's not safe for human occupancy, but that doesn't apply to the ground. So I think the members of Romana's crew, they can still live in the RVs on Ricky Mann's property if he allows them to.
Those RVs are so fucked up. Let's go back to that. That was definitely the cops
that busted up the windows and stuff.
in doing this, there might have been a little bit of, hey, let's leave him just enough gas in the tank to get the fuck out of town if the courts can't deal with it. Because police are one thing, courts are quite another thing. And I think the police, they have confidence in the courts. They have, they do their very best to lay the charges they think are going to stick. But this is a slippery character. And I think that maybe there was some slim chance. I'm thinking they're leaving just one getaway vehicle left so that if anybody comes back here, they could just get in and freaking leave,
That would make sense. Oh, one thing we didn't hear is you sat in for Ricky Manz's appearance before the judge. I understand it went the same way as Romana's for the most part, and in that he was questioning the authority of this judge, or even to a larger extent, the authority of the courts.
Mm-hmm.
Where did it go with Ricky?
So the first part, you'll laugh at this. I mean, it was funny. The court said, would Ricky Mann please stand? And he stood up and he said, "Grand rising to you," in a very peppy, kind of happy way, as if it was like, that's how you talk to important people. I should know. The judge was like, okay. Ricky looked frail. Like, he looked very sickly. I mean, the first time I encountered Rick on the other side of the chain link fence, when he pulled up with his dog in the truck, and he was yelling at me, I had heard he's a former karate master. I didn't want to screw with the guy. Honestly, he looked like he's the type of guy that would haul in rebar for a couple years. He had some muscle to him for an older guy, You and I, Jordan, we don't have that old man barrel strength.
No, we're getting it, though. We're
quick. We're quick, but this time when I saw Ricky, people mistook him for Romana. They thought it was a little old Filipino lady. I mean, he has lost a lot of weight. He's hunched over. He doesn't look steady on his feet at all. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he spent a lot of time drinking when he knew the cops were coming, but he didn't look steady. He looked sick. And when he was defeated at one point in court, when the judge told him how serious the charge was and explained to him what indictable meant, he said, "Okay, who's the lawyer that I can call around here?" And the judge said, "Well, there is a lawyer in this courthouse right now. There's only one. And his phone number is listed, and this is his name." And Ricky said, "Oh, I know him. I think I've used him before." It was as if Ricky, having only been arrested in rural parts of Saskatchewan, knows this guy, because there's probably only two or three, there's the Crown that works for the police in the city and state. And then there are, what do you call them? The
public defenders.
Public defenders, exactly. And they kind of hang out around court to see if anybody comes through who might, get a case.
He also is going to be held for the weekend. He will have a bail hearing. He's in significantly more trouble than Romana, it seems. But I think, in looking at this whole thing, I think we're just at the beginning of the end, maybe past the beginning of the end. We're getting close to the end of Queen Romana's strange story. At least that's how it feels to me. Once you break up the schoolhouse, separate her from Ricky Manns, I think that's hitting reset pretty significantly.
Is Ricky capable of taking over? Is Darlene Ondi capable of taking over? Could they say, "I am getting a telepathic message from Romana in jail right now. Everybody listen. Send the e-transfers to Darlene Ondi's new account at protonmail. Whatever."
Yeah, well, it could be interesting to see if someone takes over, but I think it would be really hard. It takes someone special to lead a cult, and not special in terms of gifted. It's just it needs to be the right circumstances as well. And there's something about Romana Didulo. She's not this amazing speaker that's full of charisma and stuff. There's just something mysterious and unusual about her, and it works.
Jordan, this is what I liken it to, and it reminds me, because you were out there in the Nova Scotia fires. I actually saw a live broadcast you were doing from an apartment. Like, holy shit, it's right there.
Yeah.
People get on these conspiracies, and they think that there are high-tech conspiratorial laser beams that are starting these fires.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan, it was probably you and me at a party when we were 13. We broke a beer, friggin' left the glass in the woods, and just the right angle of sun at the right time just hit it. And there was the right leaf was just right there. And it just the magnification of the corner of the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
This is what Romana is.
Yeah, it's a crazy story, and that's why I can't look away from it. But it's been so stagnant for the last year or so that over the last week, so much has happened. I cannot wait to hear what happens in court on Monday, and not to mention my interest in the actual trial when that goes down. Are you going to go Monday, we're recording this Sunday night, tomorrow morning? Are you heading over there to see what happens?
That is the plan. Barring any extraterrestrial interventions, I will arrive over there at the courts again. Beautiful place, I think. It's reignited for me. The dumpster fire reignited because it's no longer such a dumpster. Going out there to see that compound got a little old for me. Watching the videos from the inside of it got a little stagnant. It wasn't good content. Okay, this is not what a podcast is. But now that they're at this beautiful courthouse and all people are coming to see it, it's like a real show.
We're going now.
It's like that was practice.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the big game.
Yeah, it is so wild, but I'm excited to see what happens. I'll be following your Facebook page, seeing hopefully some videos of you there. But let's do this again when a bit more has happened. Let's meet up again and keep up to date on this.
I know more is going to happen. I can't wait to talk about it.
For people who want to watch your coverage of this story, how do they find you?
So our new website domain is OwlNews.ca, but we still have the old comtv.ca because we were formerly called Community TV.
Tom, I thank you for talking to me, filling me in on what you've seen. I'm so glad that of all the journalists in Canada that I could pick to send to follow the Queen Romana Didulo trial, you'd be the one. You'd be the first, second, and third one I'd pick.
Hey, when I think of my list of reasons why I'm going out there to do this, part of it is for sure all the people out there that are in love with the weird. Oh, buddy, I'm going to bring you every nugget.
I want to thank you for joining Tom and I for this discussion. At the time of our recording, we were at a bit of a cliffhanger. Romana was being held in jail while awaiting her bail hearing. And I don't want to end things like that, so let me catch you up. This Monday morning, September 8th, Romana Didulo successfully represented herself and was freed on bail.
The self-proclaimed Queen of Canada has been released on bail with conditions following her arrest last week.
This is really uncharted territories. I think this is the most trouble they've ever been in.
A total of 16 people were arrested last Wednesday after police searched and seized 13 imitation semi-automatic handguns and ammunition from the site of an old decommissioned school in Richmound, Saskatchewan. Everyone was initially released from custody Thursday, returning to the school where Didulo spoke exclusively to Global News. What are your goals here at the Kingdom of Canada compound?
Well, if anyone would like to understand what Queen Romana is all about, I would encourage everyone to read the royal decrees.
Didulo and another man were later rearrested before public health officials declared the compound unfit for occupation, ordering residents to leave or face a fine of up to $75,000.
I was happy to see it. I hope this is the end of them being there in Richmound.
As a condition of her release, Didulo has been ordered to remain at a residence in Regina. RCMP say their investigation continues.
All that said, this story, I'm sure, is far from over, and I'm also certain that this won't be the last time we discuss Romana Didulo on this show. But for now, we're going to wrap it up. But just before we do, let me end with some thanks. First, a big thank you to Tom for sharing another evening with me and with you, the listeners of Canadian Gothic. I'd like to thank LJ from the Dystopian Simulation podcast, who provides our intro and outro voiceovers, and Monty Datta, who contributes the music for the show. And then lastly, but most importantly, a massive thank you goes out to every one of you listening, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. On the topic of support, let me thank the newest subscribers to the premium feed. Wrestle Guy, Eva, and Irma, thank you for going premium. And for anyone else who'd like to support the show, you can do it in a variety of ways. First of all, a premium feed subscription costs just a couple bucks a month, and that money funds the creation of new episodes. But the premium feed will also give you those episodes 2 days early, give them to you ad-free, and give you access to a back catalog. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can go premium at thecanadiangothic.com/subscribe. And even if you don't want to go premium, you can still support the show by sharing this episode on social media and letting all your friends know they should listen. Your support is very much appreciated. So until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let us know if you see anything weird.
Thank you for listening to Canadian Gothic.